Hi guys, I'm Oliver and welcome back to OC Avery. Now today we've got a bit of a mixed bag for you for what we're going to be seeing in today's video. We haven't got as many updates this week for the breeding. Don't get me wrong, we've got some more youngsters on the sticks and we've got some more youngsters hatching and some more developing with some exciting news with the goldfinch mules. But also one of the main focuses of today's video, which will be a little later on in the video, is we're going to visit the flights where we've got all the young birds. I'm going to talk you through what I'm doing for them at the moment as they begin to molt out, you know, how we're going to colour feed some of them if we are going to, vitamins, baycox, you know, coccidiosis, cleanliness, all sorts of different things. So make sure you stay tuned for later on in the video when we go and see the young birds and talk about molting. So this week we've got a bit of news with the canaries. We've got some youngsters we're going to take a look at, as well as some more in the nest. So let's go and take a look. So beginning with our red-eyed satinette pair, not as much to report with these guys. I think sort of with all the canaries, the foot's come off the gas over the past few weeks, and we're just not seeing the action that we saw earlier on in the season. The pair have rebuilt, however we are yet to welcome an egg, so we're just going to have to be a bit patient, see what happens. They've got a bath on. I'm just kind of hoping we'll be able to get maybe one more round out of them. If we can get them full from these guys, that'd be great, but if not, then we'll have some young greenies or something underneath them. Coming down to then our yellow dimorphics. They have been quite busy this week. Proper clicked from actually not really to having any interest, and we've got the first egg again today, which is great. You can see there's material all about the cage where they've just been thrown in about. So yeah, so we're probably going to try and get some greenfinch chicks underneath those guys, maybe. We'll see how they get on, and if not, we'll maybe have something else which you'll see a little later on go underneath them. Coming to this pair, we have our green Norwich cock to the yellow ticked fife hen. She has the two youngsters underneath her, as you can see. Both low down. They've literally not long since been fed. But by the look of just how they are at the moment, I'd suggest we've got two variegated birds. As you can see, the dad is there, and the idea with breeding these guys as a crossbred canary is that if we could potentially breed some sort of larger variety canaries as feeders, it would be ideal for some of the larger species next year. Coming to our pair here, this pair have sat. They've actually got, they laid 5 eggs and 1 was full, which is the first from these guys, which is good. But also they have fostered out some greenfinch eggs, which we'll talk a bit more about as to why they're there and who they're from in the greenfinch update. But that's those guys, and hopefully they will rear. If not, then those eggs will go underneath the dimorphics. And then we're finally going to come to this pair, which is our new colour hen to a Redpole Mule cock, and nothing from those guys at the moment. She showed a little bit of interest, but I think it's just going to take a little bit more time just to get her sort of back to that condition and get her to go down again. So we'll see what happens by next week. Fingers crossed we might have something else from this pair, which would be nice because she was an excellent mom. So last week we also saw the redpoles in this flight cage leave the nest. We've got a bit more excitement with these guys, a little bit of heartache as well, so let's go and have a look now. So to begin with, we're going to meet this pair of redpoles. Now this is the normal split Pheo cock to the normal hen. We also know that the cockbird is split cinnamon after he produced a cinnamon hen from the last round. We have since moved their youngsters, weaned them off. They're now eating by themselves, and the pair have gone back down and just laid the 4th egg today, which is great. So second round from these guys would be really nice. We're going to come down to then the cinnamon pair, which you know, one of the best pairs. They did have 4 eggs. All 4 were full, 3 hatched, and 1 was dead in shell. Sadly, we lost those youngsters. I did attempt to foster them out, but no hen would really take to them, so it ended up where we lost some youngsters from this pair. But we have got several. We've got 4 out from 2 different rounds, so fingers crossed all goes well. We might get another round out of this pair, and we'll see if they feed. You know, that's where the problem is that they're not feeding the youngsters. I'm not sure why. I did try removing the cockbird just in case he was disturbing the hen, and the hen didn't really attempt to feed after that, so it's a shame, but at least we've got some young from them. And then coming down to this pair, we have our Isabel cock to our cinnamon hen. This pair have had 4 eggs, all 4 were full, and we have just got the first little youngster today, which you can see down there, which looks to me like a little cinnamon. So that's lovely. That would be therefore a cinnamon split Isabel cockbird, that little youngster in the bottom, and I'm really hoping we might get some Isabels from this pair, which would be lovely. So let's see how they get on. Coming to this pair, we have then the normal split agate, split cinnamon, split Isabel, split pastel cock to an agate pastel hen. The hen did relay eggs after her beginning last week. However, they were all clear, but no surprise there. So what I've done is remove the nest, re-put the nest material back in, and she has spent the last 2 days rebuilding. So hopefully some eggs from these guys soon. We then have our normal slightly pied cockbird to cobalt hen. They have since rebuilt, and you're not going to be able to see the egg, but there is actually an egg in there. You can just see the base of that egg now. But she's relayed finally, which is good. We have some lovely looking youngsters from this pair, and that cockbird is a lovely bird as well. So hopefully we'll get some more from these guys. They did a good job first round, so let's hope this next round works well. No update from these guys. This is our cobalt split Isabel cockbird to a cobalt hen. Sadly, the hen has sort of gone into an early molt, so nothing from these guys this year. Then we come to our normal with a rare feathered bird. It's got a white fly and a few white tail feathers, and he is with a cinnamon hen. She has laid the first egg today, so let's hope that's full. So that's those guys. We have this pair. We have our normal pastel split brown pastel cock to our cobalt hen. Their youngsters have just left the nest. We've got 2 normal youngsters and an agate that was fostered out. They've all left the nest, but as you can see, have already gone back to the nest to play. So that's those guys getting on well. Did a good job with their youngsters previously, done a good job this round. So let's hope we'll get one last round out of them, a 3rd round, and hopefully a couple more brown pastels, and that would be a nice end to the season. And then, as you can see here, we have our youngsters from the normal split Feo split cinnamon cock to the normal hen. We've got a cinnamon in there, which is from him. We've got a normal in there, which is from him. And we've actually got another cinnamon in here, which is from the other cinnamons from the World Show line, which we fostered one of the youngsters out. So that's those guys. They're now eating independently, so a few more days, and then they will be going out into the flights with the rest of the young Redpoles. So now let's talk about the Greenfinches. The Greenfinches so far have been getting on well. We have our normal pair. They're youngsters which fledged, I believe, in last week's video. They are now weaned. They've been eating completely independently for the past few days. I'm confident that they're all right, so they have joined their siblings from the first round in the flights as well. So we'll have a look at those guys a little later on. The hen had since gone back down. She made a nest. She laid 2 eggs and then sat. I'm not sure why she only laid 2. They're both full, which is good, and they are actually underneath the Fife hen down there with her own egg, and also in that nest is one pied egg from the pair in cage 7. They made a nest. She laid 1 egg and then didn't even sit it, so I decided, right, well, we'll foster that out as well. So that's what we've done. So we've got 3 Greenfinches being fostered in that nest. Hopefully it works out all right, and if it does, then great. Hopefully we'll get a nice pied and some more normals. but the other two pairs which have not sat have gone back down. So the normals have gone back down and rebuilt, and the same for the pieds. They have rebuilt but no egg just yet. And then for the pair of pieds which are in cage 8, they've got 2 eggs underneath them and they are due very soon, so fingers crossed we'll have some more pied greenfinches relatively soon. So overall, sort of a positive note with the greenfinches. The pairs are all going back down for their last round, and hopefully a few more youngsters before the season comes to an end. Last week we saw that we had a bit of a tragedy with the bullfinches, in that we lost the youngsters. We lost the pastel chick and we lost the normal chick. I am thankful to say that the bullfinches have rebuilt. No first egg as of yet, but I think it'll be soon because the hen is rebuilding as we speak. I just really want to, I think this is going to be that hen's last round now. So I'm hoping for a large clutch. We'll see if we can foster some eggs out if we need to, but I would really like to get some pastels from those guys, as a final one, because I haven't been able to get any pastels out of them as of yet. So fingers crossed. But that's the bullfinches, and then the Siberian goldfinches have they're in the process of rebuilding now. They've actually started to put some real effort in and build a nest, but just no egg yet. So hopefully for next week's episode we'll have a bit more of something exciting to show you, which will be an egg or two from the goldies, which we'll probably try and end up fostering out as well if we can, because they failed to feed last time. So fingers crossed. So now it's time we have a look at the mule and hybrid pairs, and we've got some exciting news, so let's take a look. So beginning with the pair that we saw had got a new clutch last week, we've got the clear, buff ticked Norwich hen. She was in with a goldfinch cock. We've since removed him. There are 2 eggs underneath her and both are full, so some more goldfinch mules coming from that pair, which is nice. They are due relatively soon, in the next week or so, I believe. So I'm going to leave them underneath her, unless, in the event that she doesn't feed, but I do think she will, to be honest. Then we do have some options for feeders, which is a pair of dimorphic canaries. So let's hope, all going well, that she does feed and we'll have some golden mules from that pair. Coming down to this pair, we've got our yellow clear Norwich hen with a goldfinch cock. They had an egg last week, which we spoke about. However, that egg sadly was dead in shell. I was gutted because obviously a lovely pair for a goldfinch mule, but sadly that egg was clear. But not clear, dead in shell. But hey, they're back down on the second round now. They've got 2 eggs. I've actually not placed them in there just yet, just because I want to see if she does lay a 3rd egg. She missed the 3rd egg today if she was going to lay one, but I'm going to have a look. If she's laid another one in the morning, then I will set them and then remove the goldfinch cock, just to give that cockbird another chance at filling the eggs if there's another one. Let's hope those eggs are full and we'll have some goldie mules to look at in the near future. But that's a lovely pair for a goldfinch mule. I really hope we'll have some exciting news next week when we see if their eggs are full. In here we have our crossbill greenfinch hybrid pair. Sadly, their eggs were clear for a 2nd round, I think, or a 3rd round. It happens though, and that's why mules and hybrids aren't something easy to produce. However, what I am thinking is this might be a pair we look at keeping on for next year, just because we literally put them together at the beginning of May. So, not much time to bond at all if they would bond. So, kind of hoping that we'll get something from them maybe in this last round, which I am going to let them go for. And maybe if they are clear, we'll put some greenfinch eggs under or something and just get her to rear a final round or something, just to help us get some more numbers if we need to, if their eggs are clear. But that's that pair. So then we have our Siskin Redpole hybrid pair. You may recall last week they had a clutch of eggs in here. Sadly, those eggs were clear, which is a shame considering the other 2 clutches were full. And I think it's just because that Siskin's just slightly coming out of condition. I'm going to let them go one more round, which she has begun to build in here. Hopefully that round is full. If it is, then brilliant, but if it's not, then it looks like we might not be getting any Siskin Redpole hybrids out this year. you know, after our tragic start with that first round, we got them to, you know, not far off fledging, and we lost them tragically. Second round, sadly, the hen came off the eggs, and then we tried to foster them, and that hen passed away on the nest. So that round just wasn't meant to happen. We're kind of hoping then we might get something, but the siskin cock's looking quite scruffy now, to be honest. I think he's starting to molt, so I don't think we're going to get anything from these guys, which is a shame. So now that we've covered all the breeding birds, let's visit the young birds that are in the flights. So now it's the beginning of July, and many of the young birds from the first and the second rounds are in the flights. Don't get me wrong, we do have some first rounders that are still in the shed that have recently been weaned, like those young Redpoles, for the pairs that went down a little later on in the season. But in here we have Redpoles, we have Canaries and Greenfinches, Greenfinches and Canaries, and we do have a young Bullfinch as well. So this is mainly our native birds with a few Canaries in there as well, but all young birds, so I treat them pretty much all the same. So there's a few different things that we need to consider when the young birds are going into the molt and actually how we treat them. So the first thing is the diet. So for the diet of the young birds, and this goes from them being weaned all the way until they're pretty much fully molted, just to keep them comfortable. We give them a varied diet of several different things. So as a base is hard seed. Once they've been weaned and they've been picking up egg food for a few weeks and just egg food, then I start to wean them then onto hard seed and let them pick that up as well. So what I give them is a basic British Finch mix, or you could say it's a fancy Canary mix, and that goes for all of the young birds. Now for those that have just been weaned, they always get egg food, but they always get egg food every single day. So I give them, they have these these are external baths or weaning cages. I find they're perfect feeding stations when I've got the birds in flights like the young birds, with more young birds in them than just you would have pairs. It's better to have this, it just gives them more room. So in here they have hard seed, and then they have a dish of egg food, and that works quite nicely. They get fresh egg food every day, and the food is always clean and sorted out, and that's for all of the young birds, and they get on quite well with that. Now I do sprinkle a bit of conditioning seed in there as well. We sprinkle that onto the hard seed, and they readily pick that up. Now that is mainly the Redpoles, and I do that for the Canaries as well. The Greenfinches aren't as bothered about it, especially as babies, and it's not to condition them, it's just to give them more of a varied diet than they already get. But also I do give them sort of mealworms, whether that's live or frozen, and I do pop those in an oval dish like this as well, and that just works quite nicely. It's getting them sort of used to live food so that they will feed on it hopefully in the future, and then when they're rearing youngsters, it's just an extra helpful thing to give them. This year so far I have found that the Canaries have been the biggest fans of the mealworms of all of them. So the Redpoles, they'll have a pick at it, they're not too bothered. Same for the Greenies and the Bullies, but I put it in for the young Canaries, and they're gone very, very quickly. So that's all right, although you wouldn't expect Canaries, and they don't need them. They do enjoy them, and also what is useful is having Canaries that do feed on live food like that means that they might be more useful feeders in the future if they're rearing yellowhammers, chaffinches, brambles, or anything that's sort of needs a lot more insect-based things. So quite useful with that. So that's the diet of the young birds. So then on to supplements. I excuse me, always give supplements through the water, and the reason being is that it makes the birds have to have it. The birds, they have a water source, and they have to drink that if they're going to live, obviously. So I find that when I'm giving them a supplement, it does quite benefit when I put it in the water. Now that is different, so I do add different supplements to my egg food, but the young birds always devour that anyway. But it's sort of more important things that they get in the water. So especially for the Greenfinches, that is Baycox. Baycox is a medication which helps treat against coccidiosis. And coccidiosis is also, what we use the term going light, and that is quite common, and the greenfinches are quite prone to going light like that. So that goes in for all the greenfinches, and for me, after speaking with several different people, I've heard that you want to use a slightly larger dosage, so most birds need 1 ml per litre. With greenfinches, I've heard between 2 and 3 ml is ideal, so I put 2.5 millilitres of baycox per litre of water. That dilutes it down quite nicely and works well for the greenfinches, and that's going to stop them going light. Now, touch wood, we haven't lost any young greenfinches this year because I've been doing that with the baycox. Last year we did lose a few, and I was treating them with baycox, but clearly not a strong enough concentration when I was giving them at 1 ml per litre. Something to bear in mind as well with the greenfinches is when you're doing baycox, I'm pretty much giving them baycox 3 days a week every 2 weeks, because when I was doing doing it at a little lower concentrations anyway, but doing that once per month, that was literally catching them on the edge, and I just found that keeping that in the system 3 days a week, 3 days every 2 weeks, then fresh water, it works quite nicely. Now, not only is baycox important, especially when breeding greenfinches, but also just in any natives really, but also multivitamins, and that it goes in the water of all of the young birds. Multivitamins are really important when it comes to getting the birds to molt out. The young birds need the vitamins and all the extra vitamins for the feathers, and obviously the molt is quite a stressful time for any bird, so the multivitamins just really sort of takes the edge off of that, and just helps them get through the molt much better. So that's what I do for all the birds. I give it Versalaga's Mutavit, and that is 1 scoop, which is 1 gram per 250 ml, so you want 4 grams for a litre of water. They all get that in their drinkers. I got the drinkers from Direct Bird Products. If you're interested in them, the links in the description. And same for the feeding stations. So they're the main supplements that I give the young birds. They do get other things, but then those sort of things that I put in are in the egg food. So they do get some pre and probiotics just to help with the digestive system. They do get calcium, because calcium is obviously important for bone growth, because the young birds are still growing, and as well as just muscle contractions and different things like that. So it's just making sure that they've got everything that they need. So what about the extra things? What else do I give them, which is not a necessity, but the birds definitely don't not like it. The good birds like it generally. So you can give them wild seed, and that's especially something when it comes to native finches. I find that wild seed, if you're collecting, the Redpoles absolutely love wild seed. I do collect it, like dandelion heads, for example, and different things like that. To be fair, I know more just looking at it than I do off the top of my head. So apologies for that. However, there are a few other little things. So make sure if you are collecting wild seed that it is, an untreated patch. So you don't want pesticides and you don't want weed killer on it, because it will kill your birds if you're not careful. So that's why I'm also very careful with that, because you could risk losing your young birds. So I only take it from either my garden or gardens of family and friends who, they know what's on it, if there is anything on it. And I'm always very cautious with that, because it can absolutely, destroy, kill young birds within a few hours. So you've got to be really careful of that. Now, something else is colour food. We've spoke about colour food in a previous video, which I'll link somewhere up here, and that is using Charafill Red, or you can also use Cantax, and you want to use that more for mules and hybrids. I'll be using it on Redpole cocks and crossbills and bullfinches, but that's for a different video, because right now we don't have anything which is molting that actually needs colour food, but you will see me a little later on in the season use colour food for the cock redpoles and other birds like that. Also, with any birds molting, not just the young birds, it's important that you give them baths and you keep everything clean. So I give my birds, I've got some little plastic water like bowls, and they're actually just made for plant pots. You just stand the plant pot in that and it's for water for those, but they're perfect as little bird baths. And that's rather than putting some on the front, because I'd rather have my feeding stations on the front. I put the water down there, it's on the floor, and the youngsters go down to that and readily bath. Helps remove feathers that are molting off, keeps them stress-free, and it just really helps them. They enjoy it, so they always get fresh baths, and that is every day for the young birds to keep them in top condition. As we really need to help them get through that molt, because really, I say the most extreme molt is when they're young. Completely changing those feathers other than the flight feathers. So just something to bear in mind with that, and then with cleanliness. They always get mite treatments, so I've got some mite killing spray. I'll remove the birds from the flight, go round, spray that on there, make sure that everything's clean, just to try and reduce mite where possible, as much as possible, and and keep the birds mite free for as long as possible. I put easy bed on the floors as well, just because with any feces that goes through, for example, if I'm worming young birds, we don't want to be having droppings that contain worms and then the birds are picking up. So what I do is put easy bed in there. If the young birds are then being wormed or anything like that, anything that's clearing out of them goes onto the floor, and I clean that up immediately, so it's taking and removing any worms, and that's a standard practice I sort of do with any of the birds, is making sure that cleanliness is there, and cleaning your perches as well is very important, just to make sure that everything's all right. Now, I do offer very few perches for the young birds compared to the adult birds. And the reason being for that is they have a perch either end of the flight. It's simple and it's easy. And the reason being for that is that young birds can be prone to something called slip claw, and that is when the birds have obviously 3 toes at the front and 1 at the back. That back toe can sometimes, when the young birds are landing, go forward, so a bird is perching like this rather than perching like this, and you have to sort of deal with it in some way. And what I've found works is just less perches, so 1 at the front, 1 at the back, and 1 to the drinker. Really simple, really easy, and it's just going to help prevent slip claw. So that's my tips for bringing young birds through the molt. So guys, that brings us to the end of this week's video, episode 14 of Breeding British Birds. So I hope you've enjoyed it and you've found some useful tips, especially when we've spoke about molting out young birds and how to care for them. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, smash that like button, press subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next one.